Okay, we will bring this regular council meeting for March the 10th to order. It's 3 p.m. and I'll ask Councillor Heistad to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3 with the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Heistad. We'll move into 2.1. So today we're swearing in a new deputy mayor for the next 4 months. So I'll ask Councillor Heistad to come up and.
Do I put the badge on?
Yeah, you can do that if you want. Put your right hand on there, please.
Do I do this too?
I, Jason Heistad.
I, Jason Heistad,
Do swear that I will diligently,
do swear that I'll do diligently,
faithfully, and to the best of my ability,
faithfully, and to the best of my ability,
execute according to law
execute according to law
the office of deputy mayor
the office of deputy mayor
for the town of Innisfail, so help me God.
for the town of Innisfail, so help me God.
Okay, thank you. All right.
All right. Fist bump.
Welcome. Fist bump. Okay. And we'll move into 3.1 now. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? CEO Becker? No. Could I please have someone make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move into 4.1, the regular council meeting minutes for February the 24th. I'll just have somebody make a motion when you're ready. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'll move those minutes.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Carried. And 4.2, agenda and priorities meeting for March 3rd. Have somebody please make a motion to accept those minutes. Councillor Bates.
I'll move those minutes.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. So we're now going to move into 5.1, the public hearing. So I'll declare the public hearing relating to bylaw number 1731, 2025 open. And just so people in the gallery understand, the order of this public hearing will be that the introduction of the bylaw by Administration Manager Shaw, and then I will call to hear from anyone who is in support of the bylaw, and then call to hear from anyone in opposition to the bylaw. So I'll welcome Manager Shaw to take it away.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. So as you're aware, this is Bylaw 1731, which seeks to adopt a new municipal development plan for our community. So Council's 2022 to 2025 strategic plan, you identified 4 priority areas, and one of those was a robust and adaptive economy, which had a priority to strive for more diverse, affordable, and accessible housing by revising the MDP to support and manage sustainable growth and development. Recognizing this, Council gave direction to administration in 2022 to begin the process to adopt a new MDP. And so imagine Innisfail is the culmination of this direction. So what is an MDP? So it's a policy plan that communicates the long-term desired land use for the municipality, similar to a blueprint for a house. It shows how you're going to construct things and how the community is going to change over time. It's the view of the community from about 30,000 feet. It's meant to aid decision makers on development and subdivision applications within the community, and it's meant to be a 20 to 30 year window into the future. It's also meant to be reviewed every 5 to 10 years, and by legislation, every municipality in Alberta must have one. So our existing MDP was adopted back in 1998. It had consolidation in 2007. And so it had four distinct sections as indicated in the slide. Now, since the plan was adopted, municipalities have taken on more responsibilities that have been downloaded to them by senior levels of government. And as well, newer municipal development plans have covered more topics compared to earlier plans. So you can see on the slide there, the Bylaw 1363 is the one on the left-hand side, and Imagine Innisfail is the one on the right-hand side. So if we look at Alberta's planning hierarchy, we see that the MDP is kind of like a bridge between our community and the government of Alberta plans and policies, and also to our IDP with Red Deer County. So it's an important part of the planning hierarchy in Alberta, and all other municipal statutory plans must be consistent with it. Okay. So what should or what must MDP contain? So you have a list of bullets here that shows what it must contain. So the future land use of a municipality, the manner of and the proposals for future development, coordination of land use, future growth patterns, infrastructure, transportation networks with adjacent municipalities, providing municipal services and facilities, either generally or specifically, contain policies compatible with the subdivision and development regulations, and also provide policies respecting the provision of municipal, school, or municipal and school reserves. And then also must contain policies respecting the provision of conservation reserves. So how is our municipal development plan made? So the process that we took is that the plan was prepared in-house with community development services staff as well as others with existing resources and budgets under the direction of the Director of Community Services and also under the direction of the senior leadership team. We had a municipal development advisory plan committee, which consists of members from council as well as the public, and they guided the preparation of that plan. So that included citizen representatives Derek Baird, Donnie Hill, Ron King, who's in the gallery today, Jason Kremp, who's also in the gallery today, Doug Boss, Councillor Bates, and Councillor Wing. And then as part of this process, we had fairly extensive preparation of the reports as well as discussions and workshops and community engagements, which helped to shape Imagine Innisfail. So here on this slide, you can see that there was a background report that was prepared that looked at the municipal policies and plans from 1998 to 2024. We had surveys, community surveys, both short and long forms. We had committee reports, which consisted of 13 reports to the committee, covering a variety of subjects. The community engagement reports were put together after each survey that was taken. We had community engagement events, and as well, we had committee workshops. So fairly robust type of background to preparing the plan itself. And this particular image that you see here shows you the phases that we used and the names that we had applied to each of the phases. So in the first phase, you had Discover, which was to get an idea in terms of what the community has put together over the last 25 years. With respect to policies and plans. Phase one was Imagine, in terms of what could we imagine Innisfail could aspire to over the next 30 years. And then phase 2 was the create phase where we began drafting the municipal development plan. And then phase 3 was the engagement. So this phase, basically, we were checking with the community to see, did we have the right kind of policies within the document. And now phase 4 is the final phase where we're looking at concluding the MDP process. So this is why we're before you today, is to have the second and third readings of the bylaw adopting the MDP. You have the vision statement here, as well as the goals. 5 goals were selected. Okay. And then community priorities came out of phase 1 survey. And so you can see that there are about 9 or so priorities that the community had identified in the first phase. And so committee members, as you can see in the picture there, they were reviewing the community priorities at one of the workshops that we had. Okay, so council adopts the MDP itself, but the MDP rests on these other documents that you see here, which includes like the background report, as I indicated, that was completed as part of the discovery phase, and then also the technical reports, those 13 committees that committee reports that I talked about, and then finally the community engagement report, which summarizes all of the community interests that we have received through the individual surveys themselves. And so what's in a name? The MDP Advisory Committee selected Imagine Innisfail as the name for the new municipal development plan from several possibilities. And then if we look at the next slide, we can see what's in Imagine Innisfail. So it contains 8 chapters plus a mapping index to support the 8 chapters. The first 2 chapters basically provide you with the background to the community as well as to the plan itself. And then chapters 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are the bulk of the MDP itself, and they provide the policies section for the support of the MDP. So what's in the future for Innisfail? Well, based on the last 35 years, estimates for the 2024 is between 85 to 8,800 population, depending upon the government data source. We know that we are an aging community. 25% of the population were 65 years and older in 2021, as well as 2024. The difference between the 2021 and 2024 is that the workforce population has increased. Next federal census is in 2026. Population results won't be known until 2027. And so the population table that you have here is based on the trends that we saw in the last 35 years, and then we generated what we believe would be annualized growth rates ranging between 1.26% up to 1.69%. Land use from a residential land supply, we have more than enough land available, whether that be serviced or unserviced. Commercial land supply, we believe that there's enough sufficient subdivided land available to accommodate future commercial development until 2056. Industrial land, again, we believe that there's plenty of land available, but of course this could all change subject to some industrial activity coming into the community that might require large volumes of industrial land. And that's why we know that the institutional land supply, including open space, is sufficient over these next 20 years or so to accommodate the population as school-aged children within our community. So from the standpoint of growth management, Imagine Innisfil encourages the growth and revitalization in identified nodes and corridors of the town. It also supports diverse housing options and amenities for residents while ensuring that they occur in all parts of the community. We know that residential growth is anticipated to occur primarily within the neighborhoods of Hazelwood, Bella Vista, and Napoleon South for the short term, and Upper Vista for the long term. Infill is also anticipated to occur within vacant lots around the community. One of the concepts that we introduce in this plan is nodes and corridors. So we have divided the community into like the town center, the neighborhood center, commercial centers, neighborhood corridors, and commercial corridors. And so town center, we envision that it would be a walkable, integrated open air and built multi-use area that is organized around the town's historic Main Street, so that it becomes a vibrant hub where community members can gather, engage, and connect. And from a neighborhood center standpoint, this would be central or connecting points to the town where various amenities, services, and activities are concentrated with a mix of commercial, institutional, and medium to high density residential buildings. Commercial centers, the type of urban form, consists of areas or hubs for commercial activities represented by enclosed malls, strip malls, or business parks. When we talk about corridors, there are places for movement, living, and commerce that are anchored by the transportation networks that can connect most nodes. Corridors vary in density, length, and in width. So we have neighborhood corridor, which will link surrounding neighborhoods to each other and other parts of the town. So think of 52nd Avenue as a neighborhood corridor. Commercial corridor, areas with a diverse range of commercial uses situated near key nodes or along key corridors. So in this case, 50th Street would be an example of that. So finally, you can see the future land use map that we envision for the next 20 to 30 years, where we will see the type of residential development filling in the neighborhoods that I had indicated before, industrial activity occurring down in our southwest sector, and also as well in our northeast sector. So again, we would expect to see a community that can grow within its current boundaries and that would have sufficient land base for the next 20 to 30 years. And that's our presentation, Council.
All right, thank you, Manager Shaw. So I will ask if there's anyone in the gallery who wants to come forward and speak in favor of this bylaw. I don't see anyone. Then there's anyone in the gallery who would like to come forward and speak, then oppose this bylaw? Don't see anything. Any comments from council? Anything? No, nothing? Okay. Nothing? Okay. All right. And nothing further from administration, so then I'll just have a motion, please, to close the public hearing. Councillor Wing.
Yes, Mayor Barkley, I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thanks. And I just want to say thanks to administration and to the committee members, a couple of them here in the gallery today, for all the work that went into this over the last couple of years. It was a long journey, but obviously very worthwhile, and thanks for putting all this together for us. Okay, and then the second and third readings of that bylaw will be further down in the agenda. So for now, we'll move on to 6.1 with our CAO report.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Hello, Council. The report's there for your information, Council. If there's any questions or comments regarding this report or anything else regarding administration operations, be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, if thank you. Could I please have someone make a motion to accept the CAO report? Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, that council approves the chief CAO's report dated March 10th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for our CEO? No? Okay, all in favor? No, carried, thank you. And we'll move into our council action control. And I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the council action control as information. Councillor Bates?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about it? No, I don't see any. All in favor? Okay, carried. Now we'll move into 7.1 with Director Vickers and education property tax increase.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So council is aware that the province of Alberta did pass their budget just recently. And in their budget conversation, they did have some discussions about how they wanted to increase the cost sharing of education property taxes to be more funded through education property taxes versus just general property taxes. So education funding is sourced only through two primary streams for the province, and one is just through general revenues, and then the second one is property taxes. So in the 25-26 fiscal year, the proportion of education costs funded through property taxes is set to rise up to 31.6%. In 24-25 it was at 29.5%, and in 23-24 it was at 28%. So the increase does align with growing demand for education services in the province. So through their budget, they did announce an increase to the property tax rates as part of their 2025 budget after they did have a freeze in 24-25. So the new education property tax rates for 25-26 are for residential and farmland, it's $2.72 per $1,000 of equalized assessment. And for non-residential, it's $4 per $1,000 of equalized assessment. So the government of Alberta determines education property tax rates using an equalized assessment model. So this is a standardized system that ensures fairness across all municipalities. The equalized assessments adjust for variations in local property assessments, allowing the province to set a consistent mill rate for all municipalities to generate the required education revenue. So then the province sends us their mill rates. We then take those mill rates, look at our current year's assessment values, and then we take those numbers and determine what our internal education mill rates need to be to generate the dollar amount that the government has told us to. So as property values rise and new development occurs, the total provincial education property tax requisition will increase from $2.7 billion in 24 to $3.1 billion in 25. So this increase in education property tax rates will affect all property owners in Innisfail, as the town is required to collect and remit these funds to the province. And local municipalities don't get to set the education tax rate. However, we are required to include it on our property tax notices and remit the collected funds to the province. The province then distributes the funds to school boards on an equal per student basis. So even though we have this breakdown of Alberta School Board and the separate school board, it really doesn't matter where the money goes. Every student gets the same dollar amount depending on where they go. So we do have the following table that outlines, I brought in 24 and then what our 2025 requisition amounts are, and it is showing an overall increase of 12%, which equates out to $379,000 in education property taxes extra collected in Innisfail this year. And then just below, this is what our mill rates are going to be. So you can see that last year's mill rates are identified there, and then the 25 mill rates are identified there. So we are seeing an increase of 4% on residential properties and 13% on non-residential properties. To support this increase from the province, we do need to create a budget adjustment so that it kind of can flow in our budget to show the accurate numbers. So we are looking to adjust the tax revenue for schools account to show that increase in $379,000. And then the two expense lines for ASFF school requisition and separate school requisition are identified there as well. This will not change our contingency. It will remain at zero. And administration will work to promote these changes through the town's regular communication channels, including social media, the town voice, and utility bill inserts. Additionally, every year we do create a property tax brochure that will be mailed out with tax notices in April. But we'll put in some key information on the tax rates, assessments, payment options, as well as this new updated information about the education property taxes. So I'll take any questions that council may have at this point.
Right, thank you, Director Vickers. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to Director Vickers. And it's as much a comment. There's no way I can't support this because as a statement that I don't support what the government's doing, we don't have a choice. But I just would like to be on record as far as saying I heard the minister last week in Edmonton. He did say, well, we could collect 100% of the budget through property taxes if we want to, so 30% it is, and that's not going to go down from his perspective. Private and charter schools are included in the education budgeting, so again, it's not just public schools and Catholic schools that receive this money. But for me, coming from that presentation last week, the communications part is key, and I know we have a workshop coming up this weekend, so I would really like to talk about how we can get this message in front of the community, because as was noted last week in Edmonton, municipal councils will look like the bad guys in this, and it's not, it's worth the conversation about why do we fund education, what's the value of education. There shouldn't be a good guy and a bad guy, but we're getting labeled with this one, so I just wanted to make that comment. Thanks.
Yes, Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Wing, we've had discussions about how we want to put this wording out there and focus that it is not a town of Innisfil decision, that it is coming from the province, and we're just flowing that through.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Vickers, can you explain, I know it's a small amount, but in the table under the Catholic School Board, like the increase is a negative 10%?
Yes, Mayor Barkley, so the assessment actually went down for the Catholic School Board in our equalized assessment, so then the amount that they have to pay for their requisition is actually a little bit smaller, so they are seeing a negative 10%. So from the non-residential businesses, we're only collecting $16,539 to go, with the intent to go to the separate school board.
It's interesting that it went down.
Yeah. Those dollar amounts are given to us, like every number in that column is given to us by the government, so
Yeah.
that's how we have to collect
Fair
it.
enough, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, Your Worship, I would agree with Councillor Wing on this one. It's just it was unfortunate how it was rolled out to us, and I think that I do agree with our communication piece, and I do believe that we'll do a good job with that. I think, unfortunately, some residents may not understand because we do a great job communicating via social media, paper copies, all this, but the disappointing thing is that just sitting there for those 3 days is just how it was done, and I guess the lack of empathy on how it affects municipal councils and how we communicate, and through the MGA we're in a tough spot, and I think that's the big thing, that it's disappointing. And it's awkward at the same time. What I would say about the charter schools and that, there's no charter schools are receiving funding as is right now, and their accountability is not the same as public schools and Catholic schools, and I think that's to me doesn't make sense. But I just thought I'd have it for the public record.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll just have somebody please make a motion as presented. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barkley, I move that council approves the recommended budget adjustments.
All right, thank you. Any more comments? All in favor? Carried. Had to do a double look over there. Okay, we'll move into 7.2 on the election sign bylaw with Director Vickers.
Perfect, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So back on February 3rd, administration did present a report to council just to review the current election sign bylaw to see if council wanted to make any amendments or anything like that prior to the upcoming election happening in October. So as council had their discussion, they did consider that location number 2, the intersection at 50th Street and Highway 2A at the southwest corner, so that is really just the entrance right at the McDonald's corner, that council felt that it posed a traffic and safety risk. It's a little bit too congested. It's really hard to put signs there and maintain your distance from other signs. So council did direct administration to remove that location from the bylaw and review the remaining designated locations. So administration did complete the review. And following the review, we did confirm that the 4 remaining election signs locations were suitable with no identified safety or visibility concern. So we did decide to leave these unchanged in the updated bylaw. Just to make sure that any ongoing compliance and address any emerging issues, administration will actively monitor for complaints through the election sign period, which starts September 5th and will go to October 23rd. And any concerns raised by the public or candidates will be reviewed and adjustments will be considered if necessary to maintain fairness, safety, and accountability. So additional changes made within the bylaw. There is the introduction of digital election advertising. So basically the provision is if there is an electronic sign that already exists out, so it's already approved to exist, you are allowed to go in and put an advertising on that now sign. So specifically the sign on the highway or some other type of electric sign, if it's already there, you could then book your own ad. So that provision is in there now. And we did just update the fine structure. So the minimum fine violation increased from $100 up to $250. Just to ensure some stronger enforcement and deterrence of non-compliance. So there will be some minor service level impacts. Actually, it might be a slight decrease as we're not having to actively monitor 5 locations and now only 4 locations. And we will update the town's website to reflect the revised sign regulations as well. We're going to promote these through all of our regular communication channels, as well as our candidate nomination package will be updated to include the revised bylaw, ensuring that all current candidates receive the most up-to-date information on sign placement. So I'll take any conversation that council may have.
Thank you, Director Vickers. I'll have somebody please make the first motion. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council accepts and gives 1729-2025 election sign bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about this? Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, Your Worship, I'm going to be cheeky. No, we have a digital sign on our arena. So does that mean that we can, I'm just assuming, but
Can't do
not.
anything on municipal buildings, Councillor Heistad,
Okay.
but. Councillor Dunham.
If I could just make comment, I just want to say thank you for this. I'm glad that we've got a good lead on this as the candidates start to come in. And I'm glad that we did decide to exclude the one area for several reasons, one also being vandalism too. I think that this year, more than any, we could potentially see that coming up. And also I'm glad that candidates will not be able to add their own electronic or digital signage in, that they can only use what exists in the community, because that would definitely be a lot of visual pollution, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All in favor? Carried. Have somebody please read the second motion. Councillor Bates.
I'll move that council accepts and gives number 1729-2025 election sign bylaw second reading.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? No, all in favor? Okay, carried. And then consideration for third reading, please. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council gives consideration for 1729-2025 election sign bylaw third reading.
Okay, all in favor? All right, and then I'll have someone make the last motion. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barkley, I move that council accepts and gives 1729-2025 election sign bylaw third and final reading.
Okay, thank you. Last chance for any comments? No, all in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into 8.1, and we'll invite Manager Shaw back up and go back into our bylaws.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You didn't have enough of me in the public hearing, so here I am again. So we have now before you second and third readings of bylaw number 1731-2025, which is the adoption of the new MDP. So we have advertised in requirements in the Albertan on February 18th, 25th, and March 4th editions of the Albertan. Notification was also placed on the town's website. Arrangements have been made for the online viewing of the council's deliberations, and advertising, as I said, was done in accordance with the provincial legislation and municipal policy. So as I indicated to you during the public hearing portion, we had a a process to be able to do this work, which encompassed 3 years of work by administration as well as committee members. A good amount of dedication from the committee members to take the time to be able to provide us with feedback on our draft documents. In terms of community engagement, we had a series of 3 surveys, one at the beginning, well, actually 2 at the beginning, and then one during the engagement phase when we had the open house at the Library Learning Center. And so we now have 3 engagement documents that are the result of this process. It contains quite a large amount of data for the administration for consideration. So these 3 documents alone, they have about 150 pages of community feedback. In total, there were over 500 pages were written to support the MDP that you have before you today. So we have circulated the document to school boards, Red Deer County, and government agencies. Input received from these agencies has been included in the draft that you have before you. So I won't go into much in terms of what I've already talked about with respect to the MDP through the public hearing. In terms of the financial impacts, Section 637 of the Municipal Government Act identifies that the adoption of a statutory plan like a municipal development plan does not require it to undertake any of the projects referred to it in it. This means that council has discretion in determining when and where financial impacts will occur from implementing projects identified in the new document. So adoption of Imagine Innisfil fulfills the robust and adaptable economy priority from Council's strategic plan. It provides, it completes the initiative of a revised municipal development plan that supports and manages sustainable growth and development. A plan like this doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of effort by a lot of people. I would personally like to thank Director Jenkins for her support throughout this time, and as well as the senior leadership team and others within the organization, particularly our communications department, who went through a lot of redrafts of the document, and I'm sure that we caused them a lot of frustration because of those rewrites. But also I want to thank the committee of public members as well as council members who devoted their time during these 3 years to put together this document that you have before you. And finally, to thank the community itself in terms of their interest in the document and in the process. And one last thank you, and that is to Pallavi Singh, who is no longer with us, but she made a significant contribution to the final product that you see before you today.
All right, thank you, Manager Shaw. Okay, so we will move into the first recommended motion on second reading, please. Councillor Bates.
Yes, I'll move the council grant second reading of Bylaw 1731, 2025, being the municipal development plan for the town of Innisfail.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. As one of the council members of the committee, I just would like to make a couple of comments. I think at the beginning of this, when we were given the timeline for putting this plan together, we went, how long is this going to take? And now after almost 3 years, Manager Shaw, I think we delivered a pretty fine product here, and I want to thank you. And I want to thank Pallavi Singh as well for your patience with this group. It was a lot of work, and you guys did a lot of work, but it was extremely interesting. And certainly Derek Baird, our volunteer, who was the chair of our committee, isn't here, but Ron King, Jason Kramp, who are here, Rob Getty, Donnie Hill, Doug Voss, and Councillor Bates. I think we worked really well together, and I think we came up with some really good results. But just a reminder to council, this is a statutory plan. One was done in 98, it was amended in 2007. We went 18 years without really looking at it again, and as a statutory plan, we do need to use the MDP to support all future planning for our community. So it can't just sit on the shelf. Future councils and administration must use it for the valued resource that it is. And I think, it's very difficult to look at 50 years into the future, especially over the last 10 years, and imagine what things could look like. But I think we've got a good compilation of documents and rules and great ideas that will really help guide us. So thank you again for your work. We really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Dunham.
Kind of hard to follow that up, Councillor Wing, but just another, I guess, comment from my perspective, and I just really want to applaud everybody that was involved in this. Manager Shaw used a term, the robust background, and it's really true. There was so much effort that was put into this document over the last few years, and unfortunately in community development, not everyone will always be pleased with what happens, especially when it comes to proximity to being in their own backyard. But the thing that we need to remember with the development of something like this and with the development of our community is that it's for the betterment of our current residents and our future residents. And Imagine Innisfail is a vision really for the future and what this great little town of ours has and the potential within it. So I really want to say how much I applaud it. Thank you.
You know the rules, no little town talk. Question, Manager Shaw, can you change verbiage in this, or is it done now?
No.
You can, essentially, we can make changes. The bylaw can be amended if.
The one thing that stuck out to me, Director Jenkins, maybe because I am one, but on page 13 it says the 2021 census revealed Innisfail to be an aging community, and I almost take that as a negative, like the way it sounds. And I think of the work that the Age Friendly Committee has done and the designation that Innisfail has received, and with that aging comes sometimes wisdom and resilience and ability to volunteer in the community, and it can be looked on as a positive, and I think demographics in general, probably most communities are aging, but it just kind of stood out to me that it was, anyway, I'll leave it with you. I'm not.
Yeah. If council would like a tweak to that, we can include that in your motion. Generally with bylaws, land use bylaw, things like that, if there's typographical errors or things like that, they can be corrected without a full process, provided they're not changing the intent or the impact of
Likely
those.
most people wouldn't notice it. I just kind of popped out at me because kind of that age-friendly mattress. So, okay, so we do have a motion for second reading. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll have a motion to grant third reading, please. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move the council grants third reading of Bylaw 1731-2025, being the Municipal Development Plan for the town of Innisfail.
All right, thank you. Any further comments? All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 8.2, Napoleon South Marketing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So today we're looking to request council approval for lot pricing, lot draw format, and the design guidelines for the Napoleon Lake South development. So back on February 18th, council did approve moving forward with the infrastructure tendering subdivision and accepted those draft design guidelines. Since that time, the subdivision application has been submitted through PCPS for processing. All adjacent landowners and external agency stakeholders should have received their notifications by now. Draft issue for tender drawings, tender document, and cost estimates. 2 of the 3 of those were received by the end of last week. We're just waiting on the final cost estimates. The intent is that the tender for construction will be posted on March 19th and close on April 8th. and that there will be a 60-day tender acceptance period commencing after the closing date. So we did just include some of the wording out of our tender documents, which essentially outlines that council does have the ability not to proceed if, when those tenders come back, if you decide that the project is not viable or that you don't want to move forward. So that's sort of the, that will be the final sort of council decision that goes along with moving forward with the construction portion of the project. So marketing has commenced with the lot draw scheduled for April 10th at the LLC. A lot draw format has been identified to provide the most fair and equitable process for purchasers, as well as allow for an evaluation of demand prior to final approval for the construction of the infrastructure. The lot draw requires pre-registration, a $5,000 deposit, and in-person attendance at the lot draw for lot selection. Following the lot draw, individuals will be required to enter into a purchase agreement by May 9th, along with a 10% deposit. The balance of the lot prices will be payable on November 30th, and the purchasers will be required to complete construction of a home within 18 months of title transfer. Volume purchasers will be eligible for a 5% discount on purchase prices, and essentially a builder or individual can enter each category of lot draw once. So if you want to go into the townhouse lot draw, you enter once. All the names in that category will be drawn. If you are interested in additional lots, you can then put your name in additional times. So for example, there's 11 R1B lots. If we have 6 distinct individuals that enter, the 6 names will be drawn. They can select their lots. If there are individuals that would want to buy 2 or 3 or 4 lots, their name would then get put back in to select those additional lots. If there are lots available following the lot draw, they will then be available for direct purchase following that May 9th date when the purchase agreements need to be signed. No lot price reductions will be entertained unless new pricing is brought forward to council. So as we know with Napoleon, as we moved along, we did get into a situation where we would negotiate lot price through the realtor. That won't be something that we'll be doing following the lot draw. That's the cost for the lot. If a year down the road, those types of things, if we want to contemplate different pricing, that would be a council decision. Again, pricing has been set to ensure competitiveness with surrounding markets and strong sales, as well as the financial impact of the cost of the servicing. We're looking to provide that range of housing, including smaller, more affordable products that are not currently available in the community. So we do have the list of lots with the prices. The one attachment does have each individual lot identified. The variations within each lot class are generally due to size, orientation, those types of things with a bit of variability. Again, the design guidelines have been created and included to ensure quality design and finishing of homes. The guidelines include consideration for massing, roof lines, entries, porches, landscaping, and exterior finishing. In terms of the financial impacts, revenue and expense projections indicate that this project should be funded through the land acquisition reserve if moderate sales are achieved through the lot draw and sales in 2025. Total project costs will be updated through the tender issuance process and will be finalized upon receipt of bids. We are getting some updated costing based on requirements from Alberta Transportation for upgrades to the Highway 54 and 42nd intersection. Traffic impact assessment has indicated that there may be requirements for increased lighting as well as a northbound right turn lane that we didn't have in our initial cost estimates. So we will be, when it comes back to council, that will be reflected in those costs. Again, council will be asked to make a motion to approve the award of the infrastructure contract that's targeted for April 14th, along with the lot draw results there. Promotion of the area, again, it's commenced utilizing our involved.innisfail.ca page. This is new component of our website where we're able to identify specific projects, and it's easier for us to update, as well as not necessarily for this project, but for other projects, solicit external feedback. Upon approval from council today, pricing will be added to the site, as well as the design guidelines, and we'll begin to promote that lot draw date. We do intend to have a launch event on next Wednesday, March 19th at the LLC, primarily targeting builders and realtors to provide information and build awareness. So invites for that have gone out, and we'll be continuing to promote that to get the word out. Lot draw registration will also open on March 19th, and we'll continue to promote via print, radio, on and off-site signage. We had some material available through some of our builders at the Red Deer Home Show, as well as at the trade show. So the only other thing we wanted to share with council today, Juanita, if you can bring up that map, was just we've had some conversations about the berm and how the berm will change with the development of the area. So just to help council visualize, right now, the berm, so that pinkish purple, that will be what's maintained in terms of the berm. At the south end, where you see that green area, that will be the stormwater management facility for the subdivision. So the berm right now comes right down along the side of sorry, we need to stay where you were, down towards, adjacent to the commercial area. So that blue box is the commercial area at the south, comes almost right down through that parcel. So it will be pushing back to the north before you build up to that berm. Do think there's some positives to that in terms of the visibility of that commercial site, particularly the Highway 54 traffic coming from the north. But just so council has some awareness of what that's going to look like upon completion. So again, today we're looking for approval of the lot pricing, the lot draw format, and then those design guidelines.
Okay, thank you, Director Jenkins. The R2s, no front garage, but attached back, correct?
They can have attached or detached rear garage.
And will you have some of that, like in the advertising, marketing, and?
So the lot information will have that no
okay.
front garage is permitted on those lots. Again, you don't have to build a garage.
But would you also put in there, Director Jenkins, that rear attached or detached are allowed or something, just so
Yeah, we
people
can do
don't?
that for sure.
Just so people don't go, oh, I can't have a garage, I don't
Can't
want
have
to
a
buy in
garage,
there. Because just some people I've been
Mm-hmm.
talking to, they're interested, but they certainly
Mm-hmm.
would like a garage. And curious what volume purchase means. Is that more than one? for the
Yes, so
discount?
in the actual, there's a couple of attachments. It would be on, so purchasers selecting and entering into purchase agreements for 3 or more detached lots, 2 or more duplex parcels, so that would be 4 individual lots, or 2 or more townhouse sites, so again, that would be 12 or 13 actual individual townhouse lots, is what would qualify as that discount.
Okay, next question. Is there any thought of a finder fee for realtors who bring you a customer?
We have not at this point, particularly for the lot draw. If we want to consider that once the lots are just sort of openly available. I believe when we did Napoleon Meadows, it was $1,000 or something like that per lot, as sort of
Okay.
again, a finder's
Okay,
fee.
so-
If council's interested in that, we can bring that forward, so we have it ready for for the time following the lot
So
draw.
after the lot draw then?
I would think
No,
that
fair enough.
that's probably more appropriate right
no,
now.
for sure.
But
And
Yep.
is there any, do you think there'd be possibility, I guess it would depend on traffic count, of further speed reduction along 54 if this was built out and,
So there was a traffic impact assessment done as part of the impact of this development. I don't believe it addresses the speed on, it bases it on what this development triggers.
Okay.
And at this point, it's that improved street lighting, so I think it's about 8 additional lights. And then that speed reduction lane for the right-hand turn. We can certainly, we're gonna be having conversations with Alberta Transportation as to what, where they would consider or what that would look like moving forward.
yeah, just curious, kind of through that stretch, like through the intersection, if it was 60 or something, especially as both sides build out, so Councillor Bates.
Couple of, I guess, similar questions, just to, read in there somewhere, the R2s on the west side of the split street, it was encouraged to have the loft suites on the garages if you built one. So that obviously implies you don't have to. What about potential lofts on the east side? I'm just curious.
So currently, the land use bylaw does provide for basically rear secondary suites on R2 lots throughout the community. So right now, that's what would apply on those lots.
So even though we wouldn't encourage it, it could be done?
It could be done, yes.
Okay, that might be important to somebody who doesn't get the lot that they, and then I guess the other question was relative to, I know in Napoleon, we have one home that I'm aware of that was actually built on slab, not on a basement. Would there be any restrictions in this subdivision?
No, there wouldn't be. If someone wanted to build on slab, they would be able to do that. Again,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Jenkins. If we get a builder coming in who is interested, who wants to be a volume purchaser, and purchasing in volume is contingent on having a selection of sites that are side by side, do we have contingencies for that?
in terms of the single family or the detached lots? Is
In
that what you're
any of
thinking?
them?
So no, and I think that's the intent of the lot draw process, as the municipality, making it as fair and equitable for anyone to come and purchase a lot, as opposed to allowing a single builder or someone to come in and lock up, all the properties before anyone else has a shot at it. For the townhouse and the duplex lots, like, you have to buy 6 lots for the townhouse. An individual can't come in and buy half a duplex lot. It needs to be purchased as a unit. But yeah, that's the intent of that lot draw, from a procurement, from a fair perspective, that we aren't picking one builder and letting them be the, sort of hold the monopoly on the lots.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. This is in reference to building the access road from 54. And that there are expected additional costs, but will those be put onto the lot prices? Or,
So based on the estimates we have right now, essentially the cost of those upgrades will still be covered within the revenue generated from the development. So the pricing we're doing right now, those have created revenue projections. Right now, revenue and expenses balance out in the favor of the revenue. So depending on the cost of those upgrades, it will reduce the potential return on investment, but that will be provided to council once we have those costs locked in.
Okay, thank you. And I agree with Mayor Barkley's recommendation to note in the marketing and communications that garages are allowed on the back. Thank you.
sure.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. So have somebody please make the recommended motion. Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I would move that council approve the Napoleon South Design Guideline, lot pricing and lot draw format as presented.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. Thank you, Director Jenkins. So we'll move into correspondence. Just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. We will move into council reports, and we'll begin with Councillor Bates today.
Okay, so I actually submitted a written, it was fairly concise. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit. When I did attend the Historical Village meeting, they had their AGM, and longtime board member that all of us probably are aware of, Lawrence Gould, has basically retired from the village board. And he was thanked for his, I can never remember when he wasn't there, but I know he moved to Innisfail probably a dozen years ago or more. They are also exploring a partnership with the Innisfail Men's Shed, and if that progresses to where they want to do it jointly, they'll be coming with a delegation to council. In my upcoming things, I've got the AGM and regular monthly meetings for the Water Commission. And it's interesting because I snuck a look at the agenda, and I had presented after the last meeting the snowpack concern, and they've actually got one, and I'll bring it back next week and we'll and show it to you. But they produced an updated one like today, and there's been a big upshoot in the snowpack in the last 2 days. Normally, they don't even look at it past the first of the month, but I think it was such an upshoot. And the forecast this week, it could put us back in a good position. So I just thought I'd mention that. And I do intend to be at the communications event tomorrow and the Camas Open House. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last week I attended the Municipal Planning Commission meeting and 2 days of the Spring Alberta Munis Conference, and I'll be also attending the communications workshop tomorrow. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I was also up at the AB Muni Spring Municipal Leaders Caucus this week. Tomorrow I will be at the Communications Workshop, and then on Wednesday I've got the CSSC Community Benefit Review.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I did submit my report this week. Earlier today, I attended a Parkland Library training session on advocacy that was put together for staff and board members. I will be at the communications workshop, planning on attending the Mountain View Water AGM on Wednesday and the Camas Open House on Thursday. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Barkley. I apologize. I did not submit when I was at AB Munis on the Thursday, so I'm going to be at the communications workshop as well as the Camas Open House, and I thought AB Munis was really good. Talked about civility in our roles and a lot of good communication pieces. So it was worthwhile going up last week. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I didn't submit either. First time ever. Yeah, no, I just didn't get around to it. So going back a little bit, Community Economic Development meeting. I don't think I mentioned this before, but John Powell informed us at that meeting that the rural renewal stream is being resurrected here in Innisfail. So there's going to be a lot of quite strict parameters around that initiative. And John informed us that the Government of Alberta is working on 2023 applications right now. So there's a huge backlog, and and we'll see where that goes. Of course, attended the Alberta Muni Spring Caucus along with my colleagues. First day was on incivility, harassment, and mental health of elected officials. Don't think they included CEOs in that because they never get any grief. So, but they did have a chart that 65% of elected officials have been subject to insults or demeaning language, whether that is by phone, email, or social media, and 48% have been subjected to insults as demeaning language in person or at public events. We also had Dr. Jarrett Wesley from Common Ground present, Tracy Lawrenson, who was a lawyer. Her organization is Civic Excellence. She kind of asked us to, what do we do well for us to focus on anyway, and what can we do less of, and then what can we do better. Also talked about delegations and on the agenda coming in and setting boundaries and rules to make sure that those don't go off stream. I think really good insights into preparing candidates and informing potential new councillors of requirements of the job. We also, of course, listened to Minister McIver one morning and then other ministers during the Bear Pit session. Message was the government has no additional funds unless you're in Calgary and Edmonton. But there was questions around procurement, and I was talking to CEO Becker about this before our meeting today. So there's remarks from Premier Smith regarding procurement and, buy local, buy Canadian. Of course, we have Northwest Trade Partnership Agreement that we need to abide by. So I think there's going to be more dialogue of that coming up amongst CEO Becker and his team, and then on to council. Like, what does that really mean, and what are we allowed to do? Director Vickers, Minister Horner mentioned new lending rates coming into effect April 1st. They'll be reflecting the same rate of borrowing as the provincial pays as well. Can you, I don't know, I don't think we'd heard about that. We heard that we always thought they were supposed to be matching, but we didn't think they were. So I see he was flashing up the local authorities lending rates, and I think February is 3.97 or something like that. So he's kind of indicated that the rates are already reflective, but I would really like to understand more about that and what it all means, and because I think it caught us by surprise a little bit. And then the other big thing that a few ministers talked about, including McNally, is this automatic yes. And they're looking at automatic 24-hour approvals for development permits and also from their end too, so the provincial end, that they know they need to get to things quicker, and if you haven't heard from them within a certain period of time, then it's an automatic yes, don't worry about it. But they want municipalities to have like 24-hour approvals at some point in time going forward. So I don't know what that means because I don't know what the process is, but I can see by the looks over there that maybe that will be a bit of a challenge. But anyway, those are kind of some of the big things that kind of took out of the 3 days, Councillor Bates.
Yeah, just your comments on the interest rates made me think of something. If we're going to check into it, I think the rumor is that rate could go down again this week at the Bank of Canada level. So maybe we could ask the question: how fast do they usually adjust when there is a Bank of Canada to go along with? Where are they?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will move into open mic. Welcome, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I guess I just want to comment. I don't think any of us on the Committee for Municipal Development Plan, that first meeting 3 years ago, had any concept of what we were directed to do. I think the councillors and Jason and the rest of us had no idea that this was the onerous task that we took on. It was challenging sometimes. And I guess my only other comment is that how do we get more of our citizens to these public engagements? It's a struggle. And, you learn every time you go to one of those, whether you're on the committee or as a citizen, and they, I don't know how you do that. I guess it's this day and age, but it was good to see that we crossed the finish line, and I think we have an amazing document to look for our community to follow in whatever way they can the next 30 years. I won't see it, but, because I'm not going to live that long because I'm too ornery. Thank you.
No, thanks, and thanks for participating in that committee, Ron. And I think that's always the million-dollar question. How do you get more engagement? But, you know, we put on a public budget session out at the community room at the library last year, and 8 people came to it. So it was a lot of work to deliver, but it doesn't mean you stop doing that. It just means that people are busy and not everybody finds this stuff interesting either. So they trust others to do it, and that's okay too. So we'll move into number 12, upcoming events. I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the upcoming events as information. Councillor Heistad.
I'll make that motion to accept the upcoming events.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And then a motion to go in camera, please. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make the motion to move in camera.
Thanks. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you.